Hello students, I'm Damini and we are dealing with agriculture in India part 4. We have dealt earlier prior to this with the types of farming, we have dealt with the problems of agriculture, and we have dealt with rice and wheat as the food crop. Now today we are dealing with millets, pulses and sugarcane. You are familiar with the word millets. These are the inferior quality of grains, what we call as jowar, or we may say bajra or ragi. Generally the seeds of which are round in shape. As compared to rice and wheat, they are round in shape. Whereas the rice or wheat are longer ones. So they are inferior varieties of food grains. They do not require much of fertilizers or nutrients. And these are the food crops of the food grains of the poorer section. When we speak about millets, they can be grown in infertile land also. So when we are saying it that they are comparatively cheaper, we mean to say that they need not necessarily be grown in fertile land, but they can be grown in infertile areas with lesser chemical fertilizers, or probably no chemical fertilizers are required in growing these types of food grain. They are also, along with that, even despite the fact that they are grown in infertile land, they are short duration crop. They are on the field for a shorter duration, maybe 3 to 4 months they are on the field. These crops are resistant to heat. They can grow in a higher temperature. So that is why they are called as hardy plant. They can resist the heat and still grow, and that is how we are calling them as hardy plant. They can withstand the drought condition, they can withstand high temperatures, and we are calling them as plants which are hardy, which can resist the heat. So known as it is also because of this reason that they are known as dry crops, as they do not need much of rainfall. 50 to 120 centimeters of rainfall is sufficient for the growth of millets. Temperature ranges between 27 degrees centigrade to 32 degrees. We are saying that they require a relatively higher temperature. So 27 to 32 degrees. Again, now when growing these types of crops, the farmer uses either the broadcasting method or the dibbling method, depending upon the soil type. Very unfertile soil, they may just use the broadcasting method. As many seeds can grow will grow. Or it may be a better quality of soil, then they may use the dibbling method for growing this millets. We have these jowar and bajra, which are mainly grown in Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Telangana, and some of these states. But then there is a particular millet known as ragi, which is grown in the South Indian states, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and states of Karnataka. So millets, you have to basically remember the inferior grains, why they are called as the food grain of the poorer section, and why they are called as the hardy plants, or why they are known as the dry crops. Mainly you will have to learn about, if you are learning about the climatic conditions of jowar and bajra. Look at the next one. We have pulses as the next category. You're familiar with the term pulses. These are the plants which provide us the essential, or the seeds which provide us with the proteins. So they form a very important part of the Indian diet, especially the Indian vegetarian diet, because they are highly nutritive, rich in proteins. So that is how the pulses are an important component of food grains. Another important thing other than this is that they are leguminous plants. That means that they can convert the atmospheric nitrogen. From the atmosphere, the plant can take the nitrogen and fix it in the soil. So we are saying convert atmospheric nitrogen to nitrates in the soil. They are an excellent source of cattle feed, excellent source of forage. When we are saying excellent source of forage, we mean to say they are excellent source of cattle feed. Their stock is utilized. This is the stock part which is utilized for the cattle. This crop is grown as a kharif crop in north. Now we are saying they require relatively higher temperatures, so it is grown as a kharif crop in north and as a rabi crop in the south. Sorry, they need temperatures which are not very high, so they are grown as kharif crop in the north and rabi crop in the south. Preferably it is 20 to 25 degrees centigrade of temperature which they require, and mild, cool, dry climate they need. Rainfall is 50 to 100 centimeters. Dry light soil is required, and the plant matures in 150 days. That is around 5 months duration the plant matures. Now under pulses you'll have to basically remember why they are an important crop, and you have to remember these 2 points here, that they are a part of Indian vegetarian diet, and they are the leguminous plants which fix nitrogen on the soil. They take up the atmospheric nitrogen and fix it on the soil. We deal with an important crop, cash crop, sugarcane, but before that we look into what is cash crop. We have already said crops grown for the purpose of sale, which do not necessarily give any kind of that is not consumed by the farmer, but then it is mainly grown for the purpose of sale. When we look at into cash crops, we have the fiber crops, cotton and jute, we have the oil seeds, and we have the beverages, tea and coffee. Other than that, it's sugarcane, which is a cash crop. What is the importance of these cash crops? Why are these cash crops grown? One is like tea and coffee, or it may be cotton and jute. They provide raw material for agro industries. You need the raw cotton or you need the raw jute for cotton industries. So it's the raw material that they provide. And then maybe from tea and sale of tea and coffee, we have good quality of tea. We earn valuable foreign exchange. By exporting it, we can earn valuable foreign exchange. And thirdly, we say that it improves the farmers' living conditions, because the farmer is able to earn much better from these types of crops, though initially has to invest a lot of money, but then they improve the farmers' living condition. They provide labor to a number of people living in the area over there. They improve the farming practices. The person who is trying to take up this type of agriculture should have quite a lot of technical knowledge as to what kind of machines to be used while plowing the land, how much time does the crop need to stand on the field, how is the plucking done, that is a very skillful job, how exactly the rubber plantation, how the slits are made. So they improve the farming practices. That is the significance of cash crops. Under the cash crops, we are first looking into the sugarcane as a cash crop. So when we look at sugarcane, you all are familiar with the name sugarcane. It's a stem which is being utilized, and this plant is of grass family. It has long leaves like this. So it's of the grass family. It's a tall tropical, generally grown in this tropical region, tall tropical variety. The stem is a hard, thick stem with nodes, and this in-between area is called as internodes, and the joints are called as the nodes. So nodes and internodes. India is one of the country which has the largest area under sugarcane production, but then the sugarcane produced is not, we don't rank ourselves high, but then we are the second largest after Brazil. Our rank is second after Brazil in production of sugarcane. It's a crop which is standing on the field for roughly 10 to 18 months. That means it will be on the field for roughly 1 year to 1.5 years. The farmer has to wait for 1 year to 1.5 years to harvest the crop, and then it is sent to the factories or it is sent to for purpose of sale. And another thing that you need to remember is that it's a soil exhausting crop, which means that the soil gets easily exhausted because it's on the field for around 18 months or 10 months and it is growing taller. So the soil, the nutrients from the soil are taken away into the stem of the crop. So it's a soil exhausting crop. We look into the climatic conditions, what kind of climatic conditions are required. Beginning with 20 degrees centigrade, till the temperatures reach up to 26 degrees centigrade, the crop grows very well. They also say that it can extend up to 30 degrees centigrade, but 20 to 26 is the ideal temperature in which it grows. Frost is injurious, especially if the frost is at the point where the plant is further growing. It will not grow further beyond a certain height. So frost is injurious, and then the industries do not prefer the crop which is which has had frost, because it's not so and the sucrose content may not be very high. Frost is injurious for the crop. The crop requires short, cool, dry winters during harvesting. And during the harvest time, it should be winters, short, cool, dry winters during the time it is being cut. It's a crop which requires 100 to 150 centimeters of rainfall, well distributed throughout the year. The rainfall should be well distributed and it should not be all at once. 100 to 150 centimeters, well distributed throughout the year. If the region does not have good amount of rainfall, then irrigation is required. Then the field should be provided with irrigation at regular interval. It's a stem which has the juice in it, which we call it the sucrose. We call this juice inside this as sucrose. Now what this says, if it rains very heavily, the crop takes in a lot of water, and then the sucrose content, it becomes dilute. This decreases and the crop becomes dilute. So we say that if the sucrose content is, if the rain is heavy, the juice becomes dilute. But if the rain is less, deficient, then this also dries up and it becomes a fibrous plant. It will have lots of stems. In the stem there will be lots of thread-like structure, but it will not have much juice into it. It will not have much sucrose into it. So heavy rainfall dilutes the juice, while the deficient one makes it fibrous. This is a crop which grows in well-drained soil. Now what do we mean by well-drained? When we are saying well-drained, we mean to say that the soil is such that there is no pooling of water over here. There is no standing water over here. The water doesn't get collected over here, but gradually and slowly the water percolates to the lower layers, or it doesn't allow the water to stand. So we need well-drained soil. We have said alluvial soil, which is formed by the deposit of the silt brought by the river, may have certain larger particles and certain smaller particles. That type of soil, clayey loam. Loam is a mixture of sand and clay. So sand and, if both are mixed together, the water will not stand there. So clayey loams of Indo-Gangetic plain. Now we are saying clayey, that means good amount of clay is there because it is a soil exhausting crop. But along with that, the sand has been mixed because the water should not stand on the, should not collect near the roots. So clay loams of Indo-Gangetic plains, this particular plain, Indo-Gangetic plains, are considered to be good for this alluvial soil is considered good for this particular crop. Along with that, we are saying black soil of the south. The black soil region of the south is again considered to be good for this type of black soil is rich in nutrients. So it's a soil exhausting crop, a crop which takes away a lot of nutrients from the soil. So black soil is also considered to be good for this type of crop. It even grows in laterite soil and to a certain extent on the reddish loam. It also grows on that also. But then we are saying that the soil should be given sufficient fertilizers and should be renewed, like the alluvial soil, which is renewed every year, which is considered to be an ideal one. But then should be provided with fertilizers because it's a soil exhausting crop. Now, other than the temperature, rainfall and climatic conditions, you need to look into another two requirements that are required for the sugarcane cultivation. The other two requirements are that cheap abundant labor is required for growing of sugarcane. Why do we need cheap abundant labor? One is how it is grown, the method of sowing the seed. And secondly, the labor is required during the time of harvesting. Now, sowing can be done by three different methods: set method, rattooning, or by seeds. This method has become almost not prevalent nowadays. So these two methods require sufficient labor. So when you speak about why does sugarcane require is a labor intensive crop, you'll have to tell about these two methods and then say that these two methods require labor. Secondly, you need to know that harvesting, when we harvest the crop, it has to be cut from the stem, has to be cut. So again, then this is a crop which requires labor. Second thing is, other than the cheap abundant labor, we also need adequate transport. Transport facility should be good, because this has the juice into it, and it should be carried away very fast to the industry. Within a period of 48 hours, the juice has to be extracted, otherwise the juice dries up. The quantity of juice becomes less. So we need, other than soil, rainfall, temperature, we need adequate labor, and we need adequate transport. Sufficient abundant labor and adequate transport is also required for growing this crop. We look into the methods of sowing of sugarcane. When we look into the methods of sowing, there are basically three methods. The old method was sowing the seeds, probably near the stem. They have the methods of growing the seeds, and these were resown on the field, and that is how the sugarcane was produced. Other than these two methods are there, rattooning and set method. When we speak about rattooning and set method, in rattooning, what they do is the sugarcane plant is grown and then it is cut. Now this is required for the purpose of sale. This goes off for the purpose of sale, and what is remaining is a part of the stem and the roots inside it. So this is the first crop which is being cut. The second crop grows, which is comparatively thinner than the first one. This is a thinner stem. So the quality of the sugarcane may not be very good, but then it saves, by rattooning, the crop matures early. The farmer doesn't have to waste time waiting for it to grow, to develop the roots and grow again. So it matures, it grows up faster. Then other than this, the cost of production is less. The amount of cost required maybe for sewing, for purchasing those sets, or for using the old sets. Cost of labor, cost of production is less, and as compared to set method, this requires less labor. You just have to cut it during the time of harvest, and it once again regrows. But then you know that the sugarcane is a soil exhausting crop. This stem is thinner. This is not as the first crop. The successive crop or the second crop, the stem is comparatively thinner. It's not of all that good quality as was the first crop. So this is the disadvantage of ratooning. The thinner cane, and because it's a thinner cane, the lower sugar content into that. But set method is quite labor intensive. What they do is they have the sugar cane and they try to cut them from, these are your nodes and these are your so they try to cut them into sets, and these sets are resown in the soil again. They are resown in the soil again, and it again starts growing. So it takes time to grow as compared to the ratooning method. But then the next, this becomes the first crop. So this first crop is a better quality one. If the set is of if the set from which the sugarcane is grown is of good quality, then the sugarcane will come out to be a good crop. So this is called as the set method. They cut them into smaller pieces, and one particular node and internode is sown into the soil and allowed to grow. It takes longer duration of time because it must establish its roots firmly and then again grow. So that is how the three methods of sugarcane production. This you have to remember it very well. How is set method different from ratooning? And then you have to remember the advantages of ratooning as well as the disadvantages of ratooning. Now once the stem has grown, how is the harvesting done? What is the time they take for harvesting? How do they know that the crop is ready to harvest? Once it starts flowering, once the crop has started having the flowers into it, then and the lower stems, lower leaves have become yellow. These lower leaves have become yellow, then they know that it's ready for harvesting. And while harvesting, they are aware that quite close to the soil, this part, the sugar content is high, so they try to cut it closer to the soil, closer to the root, so that they get maximum sugar content here. This is the part where the sucrose content is high, and they cut it closer to the near the ground. After cutting it, for processing, it has to be sent within 48 hours to the factories. That is why we said adequate transport, because if it is not sent fast, then this sugar content will reduce. The sucrose content reduces. So why is sugarcane sent within 48 hours to the industries? Because the sugarcane content decreases. Why is adequate transport required? Because the sugarcane has to be sent within 48 hours to the industries, and that is how so that the sucrose content does not decrease, and that is how it has been sent fast to the industries. Now what do we really get from this sugarcane? Either it is sold or it is sent to the industries, where it undergoes, it gives, basically three things are made out of it. Other than the gur and the jaggery that we make, there are three byproducts that we obtain from this sugarcane. These are byproducts: molasses, bagasse, and press mud. Now what happens when we take this sugarcane to the industry is that the sugarcane is first crushed. The juice is extracted. So the sugarcane is crushed and the juice is taken out from it, and this juice gets collected in a vessel or in a jar. Whatever is this left out, the stem that is left out after the sucrose has been taken out, after the juice has been taken out, is called as bagasse. This is mainly used for making paper or things like that. When this sugarcane is taken out, sugar is made, then whatever is left below is, there are fine particles which are left, because when it is crushed, some of the particles may, some of the grass like things may also flow and come in front. So whatever is this gets collected here, these small particles, is called as press mud after the sugarcane settles. And once the sugarcane this is boiled, a dark brown syrup comes out, which is called as molasses. The dark brown syrup, after boiling it, that is left out, is called as molasses. So these are the three byproducts. They are utilized in different ways. Like this is making for shoe polish. This is used for somewhere for alcohol and certain other things. So these are the three main ingredients. Looking at the area where it is grown, sugarcane is grown, we classify the area into two categories. One is the sugarcane grown in the northern part of the country, and the second one is the sugarcane grown in the southern part. In the northern part we have the Indo-Gangetic plain, and in the southern part it is mainly the black soil area. What conditions favor growing sugarcane in the southern part is that the temperatures do not rise very high, so it will not become very dry. Absence of this local wind Loo that exists in North India. Secondly, the soil is black lava soil, which is rich in nutrients. So this region, South India, has black lava soil, which is rich in nutrients, with very fertile soil. And lastly, there are better methods of these are sugarcane farms are mainly managed by cooperatives, so they have better methods. They are more familiar with the use of fertilizers, and they are more familiar with the machines. So there are better methods which they have, through which they grow this particular crop. But as compared to this, North India, particularly Uttar Pradesh and this whole region here, the temperatures are between 20 to 30 degrees centigrade. Fertile alluvial soil, which is replenished every year, is an advantage. I mean, the soil is replenished every year, so it will not become a soil exhausting. I mean, even if the soil is exhausted, next year it is renewed. And that is how it is grown in Indo-Gangetic plain. But the stem is thinner over here. This is considered to be a thicker stem. The southern one is considered to be a thicker stem with a higher sucrose content, while North India it's considered to be a thinner stem with a lesser sucrose content. So you'll have to have what are the conditions, why it is grown in South India and why it is grown in North India, and what kind of sugarcane comes out from North India and what kind of sugarcane from South India. You'll have to remember this. You'll have to remember the temperature, rainfall, soil conditions, and then probably this is the most important part of sugarcane. What is ratooning and what are its advantages and disadvantages? What is set method and how do you compare it with ratooning? With this we complete the fourth part of agriculture in India, where we are dealing with sugarcane, millets and pulses. You'll have to remember that it's a crop which stands on the field for around 10 to 18 months, which is a longer duration, and that is why we are calling it saying that it's a soil exhausting crop. As it grows, the soil gets exhausted. In the next class, we'll deal with cotton and jute, the fiber crops. Thank you. सब बंद कर दीजिए इसको, भैया बंद कर दीजिए इसको.